Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to the HR Insights Hour, brought to you by the Society of Human Resource Management, San Diego.
Hello, this is Nina Woodard, your host, and I am very excited today to have my very good friend Grace Judson on the show with me. Hi, Grace. How are you?
Hi, Nina. I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Very well, and happy holiday season to you as well.
I know. It's not real. It just can't be real.
Exactly. Grace and I met in 2012, I think. We were both incoming president for two of the large San Diego professional organizations. Grace was the incoming president for ATD, and I was the incoming president for San Diego SHRM. And we decided we wanted to see if we could collaborate and do some things together. And we have stayed connected ever since. It was just such a happy circumstance and so great working with you that whole year, Grace. And I'm so sad that you left us in San Diego, but so happy for you where you are in Arkansas.
Who'd have thunk it, right?
I know, really. Grace has her own company, which is called gracejudson.com, and she's also an instructor at the University of Arkansas. She helps leaders have better conversations, communications, and coaching, and she speaks. She's a speaker and an author as well as a teacher. So today, Grace, our conversation, and I ask you about this one because I saw you blogging beautifully about it and writing about it on Facebook too. But we titled this show Empathy Now More Than Ever, and why empathy is the key to transforming conflict, healing relationships, improving teamwork, and resolving tough negotiations. So tell me a little bit, Grace, about what you think are the differences between empathy, sympathy, and compassion.
I think they are blurry in a lot of people's understanding, and yet they really are different. I think, one of the things that happens, I'm going to kind of approach this from the back end and say that compassion arises out of empathy, certainly, and can arise out of sympathy. Sympathy tends to be more about feeling sorry for something that has happened. I mean, you go to the card store and there are all those sympathy cards that you can send to somebody who's had a death in the family or somebody close pass away. So it's really more about, wow, I'm really sorry that happened to you. And it can include empathy, and it certainly can include compassion. I view empathy more as being a willingness to really understand why someone would do or say the things that they do and say. So that it's really getting into the felt experience of the other person in a way that neither sympathy nor compassion, in the way I work with it, really do. And again, I think that there is a good deal of confusion around it, and I know that, if you go to online and look it up in the online dictionaries, you'll probably get somewhat different definitions than what I've just offered. But I think in general, these are in line with how the official designations work. And this is the way I work with it from the standpoint of what I do in helping people understand what other people are experiencing in order to have better conversations across the board.
And I like your definitions, actually, because I think that sympathy and compassion are something I feel for someone else, but empathy is me feeling what someone else feels or thinks.
Yes, and yet I think we have to be a little careful with that too, because oftentimes that can lead to people saying, I don't want to feel what they feel.
Well,
or what they feel is wrong.
That's true, and I guess without judgment too. But doesn't it feel that empathy leads to all other kinds of problems, like you just mentioned, like being overwhelmed by others' feelings, or maybe ending up feeling that you have to change your opinions in order to go along with them?
And that's another one of the places where I think people get stuck with this. So, yeah, I mean, there are people who we can call empaths, and they can often feel as if they are really overwhelmed by what people around them are feeling. But setting that aside and looking at this from the standpoint of what I call tactical empathy, and I actually got that from an author that I think we'll probably have an opportunity to talk about a little later. But what we're doing here is really stepping outside of our own little box of our experience in order to understand more deeply. And people do tend to say, well, if I really understood them, then I would change my opinion, and all of a sudden I wouldn't believe what I believe anymore, and I wouldn't hold the opinions I hold, and I wouldn't want the things I want. And that's not what I want, so I'm not going to go there. But that's not actually true. It just means that you have, for lack of a better word, an empathetic understanding or awareness, and that actually gives you more information. It gives you very valuable information so that you can then use that information to help the other person feel. I view that as sort of a pyramid, if you will, where the bottom level is, people are very fond, especially in conflict, of saying, well, I understand, I hear what you're saying, I hear you. And my response to that is, I hear a lot of things. I hear, the wind blowing outside, the leaves blowing around, the dog's claw, whatever. But that doesn't mean I'm paying attention. And I'm not saying that some people don't use that. I've been taken to task on this. But some people definitely use I hear you as a way of expressing very sincere and heartfelt empathy. But all too often it is used as a way of sort of patting somebody on the head and saying, okay, I hear you, but I still don't agree with you. Mm-hmm. The second level is I understand you. And now we've reached an intellectual understanding. The words that somebody is saying have been heard and processed, and we understand what they are saying. But empathy is really about I feel you. And when we can get to a point where the person that we're working with, whether it's a coworker that we're having a conflict with or a boss that we're trying to get to understand a new idea, present a new idea, or understand that what they're asking for, they're asking us to work nights and weekends and we're really not up for that, or, would the teenager please take out the trash, whatever it is, when somebody feels felt, they are far more open to change, to shift, to moving closer to in the direction of where you want them to be. So this, again, it's what I call tactical empathy, and it is a way of creating change, because until somebody feels that sense of being felt, you just dig your heels in and you just argue harder until you get to that point.
So I know that you feel empathy is really important in the world today. So share with us your thoughts about maybe the new usefulness of empathy in our environment today.
Yeah, we are in such a divisive time right now. There is so much going on that is creating a sense of fear and defensiveness and conflict, and people are, latching on to this camp or that camp, and it's my way or right or wrong, my way or the highway, probably more accurately. And we can look at some of the things that are happening and we can say that we disagree, and that's fine. That's where, people can take action, can start to, become involved and work toward creating the change that they want. But until we understand why these people that we disagree so vehemently and often violently with think and feel and act and say all those things that they do, we can't, it's just going to be a case of, you're wrong. No, I'm not wrong. You're wrong. Yes, you are wrong. No, you're wrong. And that's not going to get us anywhere. So, I heard a podcast, and I wish I could remember what it was. I don't even remember which podcast it was, never mind who was being interviewed. But the woman lived in the Bay Area of California, and she's a researcher and a writer. And she decided after the recent presidential election that she was going to go to a place that was as diametrically opposed as possible to where she lived and what she believed was good for the world, good for the country. And so she went to the Deep South and interviewed people there. And what she learned was that these people have, they are sort of salt of the earth, rural Americans, white, of course, and they have what she called a deep story, where they felt like they had done all the right things. They checked all the boxes that were supposed to lead to their being successful, cared for, perhaps not affluent, but certainly, okay. And yet they didn't feel like they had that.
Hold that thought, Grace, because we'll come back to it.
Okay.
We're listening to WSRadio.com, the world leader in Internet talk, and this is Nina Woodard, your host.
Securing Our eCity Foundation is a nonprofit organization focused on cybersecurity awareness and education. Formed in 2011, their mission is to enable every San Diegan to live, work, and play safely in the cyber world. For more information, visit securingourecity.org or call 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org, 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org.
Life is full of misadventures, from car crashes to home fires to getting choked out on the mat. Yes, I said getting choked out because I'm Carlos Kramer, jiu-jitsu competitor, MMA and media personality, and mild-mannered insurance agent. You can follow my adventures on Kick-Ass Radio, and I can protect you from life's misadventures at Kramer Insurance. Home, auto, life, business, and workers' comp. We're at KramerINS.com, and I want you to join my world.
I've been bragging about Progressive Medical Center to you guys for years, and I'm so excited to have Dr. Agoli with us because, Dr. Agoli, a lot of people walk through your doors, and some of their biggest problems are they're just fatigued, they're tired all the time, and even though they're dieting and exercising, they cannot get the weight off. Why is that?
It's a combination of poor metabolism, inappropriate eating, but more importantly, it's due to a lack of education and really doing the right testing. A lot of our patients are metabolically compromised. What does that mean? Their metabolism is not functioning. The metabolism is responsible for all physical and chemical processes necessary to sustain life, and that includes energy. And without cellular energy, your body is not going to be a burning machine. Let's get back and teach our listeners to be a fat-burning machine.
It's been a lot easier to maintain my weight since Progressive Medical Center started treating me with all-natural supplements, learning proper nutrition, and that can be you today. No more frustrations about being tired or overweight. So why don't you get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today through progressivemedicalcenter.com.
This is your life, live it well.
I've heard this is like one of the best pizza spots in town.
Yes, it is.
I'll do a slice of pepperoni, slice of vegetarian.
You got it.
And I will pay for all of that in 3 days.
In 3 days? What's that mean?
Well, wait, you accept credit cards. That money's not going to hit your account for 3 days anyway.
I need my money quicker.
At Chase, we hear you. With Express Funding, card payments are in your Chase account the next business day. Go to chase.com/expressfunding. Chase for business, so you can.
Compensated participation. All businesses are subject to credit approval. Not all clients are eligible for next business day funding, and additional terms, conditions, and restrictions apply.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcCullough.com.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to the HR Insights Hour, brought to you by the Society of Human Resource Management, San Diego.
And this is Nina Woodard, your host, back again with my great good friend and guest, Grace Judson. And Grace and I are talking about empathy, and the need for empathy. Where did my little mind go then? Empathy, which is needed now more than ever. And in the end of our last segment, you were telling a story about a young journalist who had gone to the Deep South. She lived in San Francisco and had gone to the Deep South after the election because she was so troubled and she was looking for information about how this could happen. And she went to the Deep South. So finish the story for us.
Yes, sorry about that. I was so involved in the story, I wasn't watching the time.
Not to worry.
She interviewed these people and found what she called their deep story, which is that they felt that they had done all the right things to be successful, checked all the boxes, been good, upstanding, productive citizens, and yet they didn't feel like they were actually getting what they thought they deserved. And instead, what they felt, and we can disagree with this, but this is what they felt. They felt that other people of color, immigrants, refugees, women, were essentially cutting the line ahead of them. And this led to a great deal of dissatisfaction and unrest and unhappiness on their part. Now, we can disagree with them if we choose, and we can hold different opinions. But the point here is that if we don't understand what they felt, if we don't have empathy for how they feel, we cannot address the underlying issues that is creating that kind of unrest and upheaval in some ways. We've seen it all around the country at this point.
I cannot...
And so that's really why... Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I cannot agree with you more, and I think no matter what our feelings about the current president might be, one of the really valuable things that's happening right now are conversations that we've never had. They're discussions around issues of society and women and future that we've never had. We kind of went along making assumptions about where, I know I did, making assumptions about how everyone felt about these things. And they weren't true assumptions. They were assumptions that were mine and okay for me to have, but certainly not shared by everyone. And so right. I'm grateful for the conversations that we're having today, but that really leads to why empathy is so important in today's world. So, so you started talking a little bit about that empathy applies even in the workplace and in politics, and a little bit about tactical empathy. Share a little more with us about that thought.
Sure. I think empathy applies anytime we want to have a deep, meaningful conversation. And speaking as an introvert, that would, for me, be, about 98% of the time, with the remaining 2% being, what's for dinner. But I know not everybody wants to have deep, meaningful conversations all the time. But if we are dealing with some of these issues, or if we are dealing with an aspect of conflict, whether it's at home with our families, or it's in the workplace, or we are dealing with negotiations, or we are dealing with, I would love to wake up in some sort of alternate universe where I actually could go and sit in Congress and teach them the things that I know, because then we might get something done.
You go, girl.
Instead of all this, instead of all this fighting that they're doing, and as long as we do not get into those kinds of conversations, we are not going to create change. Now, I use the term tactical empathy, and it is a term that I first came across from a guy called Christopher Voss. He now runs a negotiation consultant group, but he was, for many years, the lead international hostage negotiator for the FBI. So we're talking really, truly, literally life and death situations. And he currently uses a hashtag in social media, hashtag FBI empathy. Now, you wouldn't think of the FBI and empathy in the same sentence, or even in the same paragraph, or possibly the same book. But he talks about how what he calls tactical empathy is basically what I've been describing, how you get to understand the other person so that you can enter into a negotiation from a position of strength. And it's not the kind of strength that beats people over the head. It's the kind of strength that says, look, I get it, I understand. And just that process of the term I used earlier, which actually is not his, but I think he would agree with it, that process of helping someone feel felt. And then you have much more scope to transform the conflict into something else.
That is so profound, and it actually addresses one of the issues that for a long time, I don't know, as an HR director a long time back, I sort of felt like when I communicate things that are important about change, about the business, about direction, it's so difficult to make sure that I'm reaching everyone in a way that they will understand it, right? And so one of my challenges being an HR professional that I've accepted as a challenge and continually tried to work on is trying to reach everyone where they are, because everyone receives the information differently. And maybe, I mean, it sounds to me like I was really trying to practice empathy and not calling it that, but to put myself where they were so that I could move the conversations productively for everyone. But it does speak to the real significant fact that we cannot take communication for granted as we have in the past. And I know that there's been a lot of conversation that, you know, ever since I've been learning anything about leadership, it's, you know, be a good communicator. However, today I think it's even more critical that we concentrate on our communication skills than ever before. How do I get to be empathetic if I'm not, if I'm already or feel like it's missing in my toolkit?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I just, before I answer it, I just want to comment on what you just said, which is, you know, if you Google the most important, you know, search term, most important leadership skills today, or something along those lines, you will find that obviously communication ranks very high, but empathy is starting to rank very high in search results for leadership skills. So, yeah, I have seen some psychological studies that indicate that only about 20% of the population actually has a naturally high level of empathy, which leaves the remaining 80%, as you say. What do you do in that case? If you really do want, for strategic and tactical and leadership reasons, and you want to create change and so on and so forth, how do you develop empathy? Alan Alda, it turns out, yes, the actor Alan Alda, who those of us who are old enough fondly remember from MASH,
Hawkeye,
has actually been working for over a decade now on teaching scientists and medical professionals to communicate with the rest of us. And he has a very good, entertaining, but also very practical book out called If I Understood You, Would I Have This Look on My Face? And he uses a lot of not comedic improv, but improvisation in how he teaches. And one of the things that he suggests is, not so much from the standpoint of improv, but just as a practice, is to go out and everybody you meet, whether it's the grocery store clerk or, whoever, your coworker, your family, people you meet on the street, people you have, conversations with, look at them, really look at them, and see if you can figure out what they're feeling. What is their experience? And if you do this, I've had clients, I've assigned this to clients, and it usually gets some, really sort of raised eyebrows. But then I get emails saying, oh my goodness, I am having conversations with people that are going in such interesting and profound directions, and these are people I would never imagine that I would be having these conversations with. And if you feel safe enough, if it's somebody you know well enough, you can say, hey, I'm doing this thing. Can I run my observation past you and see if it's right? And then you need, of course, to make sure that you put it in very conditional language. It seems like you might be feeling whatever you're observing, because you don't ever want to tell somebody what they're feeling or indicate that you think they should be feeling something. But it is a fascinating and very, very simple tool.
So again, that's to just watch people and kind of try to think to yourself, how are they feeling at this moment, right?
Uh-huh.
How are they experiencing this moment? And then if you can,
what are they feeling?
Have a confirming conversation with them. And that makes me want to go people watch tonight for dinner.
Right?
You are listening to WSRadio.com, the world leader in Internet talk. And this is Nina Woodard, your host, and Grace and I will be right back.
Thank you for listening to WS Radio. Improve your business and your life with useful information from experts and thought leaders. WS Radio is radio with ROI.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
Securing Our eCity Foundation is a nonprofit organization focused on cybersecurity awareness and education. Formed in 2011, their mission is to enable every San Diegan to live, work, and play safely in the cyber world. For more information, visit securingourecity.org or call 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org, 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org.
One person has the power to change the world, impact millions of lives, and leave a legacy for lifetimes to come. That person is you. In the New York Times bestseller, What is Your What?, Steve Olsher, award-winning author and founder of the Reinvention Workshop, reveals his proven process that has helped thousands of men and women discover, share, and monetize the one thing they were born to do. Grab your free copy now at www.whatisyourwhat.com/free. That's www.whatisyourwhat.com/free.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Donate cash, furniture, clothes, and other gently used household items to Father Joe's Villages and get a nice tax break in April. Every donation is tax deductible. Believe you can make a difference. Be Father Joe. Go to neighborhood.org or call 1-800-HOMELESS to donate today.
Welcome back to the HR Insights Hour presented by the Society for Human Resource Management, San Diego.
Hello, and this is Nina Woodard, your host, with my guest today, Grace Judson. And Grace and I have been talking about empathy and the usefulness of empathy and its place today in the world of work and in our lives and relationship building. Let's talk for a minute now, because we've looked at empathy from many sides, as we've discussed in the first couple of segments. But what kind of a tool is empathy in helping us negotiate? And wouldn't empathy be useful there too?
Absolutely. I mentioned a couple of, sort of touched on that a little bit earlier, but yeah, let's take a little bit of a deeper look into it. I think, the fact that the FBI hostage negotiating team under Chris Voss, as I mentioned, he really pioneered the use of empathy at its fullest. He was the one who noticed some things going on with completely unskilled negotiators that he then incorporated into how the negotiating team, the hostage negotiators, were working. He has a very, very interesting book called Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It. And he talks about a lot of things relative to negotiation. And I think, again, the ability to slow down and take the time instead of just, people go in, most people are not fond of conflict, and most people are not fond of negotiating for something that is really important to them. Now, there are people who love that. But the run-of-the-mill person is probably not all that skilled at it, not all that excited about it, and has a great deal of anxiety around, this is something important. It may not be life and death, but it's important to them. And so when we have that kind of a setup, we tend to go in from a very defensive position and a very determined position where we're sort of white-knuckling on this thing that we want, and maybe we've got a bottom line beyond which we will not proceed. But that kind of monofocus on what we want doesn't leave us a lot of room to understand what the other person wants and what their real goals are and objectives are. My favorite client story from this year is somebody who was negotiating a business breakup. He was buying out a partner, and the partner wanted a sum that was like orders of magnitude larger than what he felt was reasonable. And we had to really look at and think about what was really going on for the partner. Why did he want that much? And over time, and in acknowledging what it was that this person was using that sum of money to represent for him, we were able, the partner came down, I think it was 83%. Now, my client had to go up 50%, but 50% of not much is still not much, and 83% of a lot is a lot. So it was one of those situations where if we had not slowed everything down and really stepped back from the initial outrage around, how could they be asking that much, to understand, to empathize, and then use that awareness, that understanding, as part of giving the other person what they wanted, which wasn't really that sum of money. I mean, I'm sure they would have been thrilled to get it. But what they really wanted was an acknowledgement of their personal value and contribution. And there are ways to give somebody that outside of writing enormous checks that would have caused the business to fail. And that's the kind of thing that when you just slow things down and step back and look at what somebody is really wanting, which requires empathy, and it requires getting outside of our own heads and outside of that little box of what it is that we want. Not in terms of giving it up, but in terms of setting it aside for the moment in order to understand what's going on.
Yeah, I recently coached one of my clients and was saying to him, this is not about you being right or her being right. This is about understanding each other so that you can take a step forward. I said, right now, you guys are standing in the middle of the boxing ring and you're just going blow for blow, right? And that's not moving us anyplace. That's not helping us solve the problem. That's making her more angry, and it's making you more angry, and we're not getting anywhere productive. We're just standing there hurting each other, which, that's going to have a long time effect. And you're both really good friends. So let's do something different, like you said.
Exactly. And the interesting thing about that is that, the relationship between my client and the now ex-business partner is better than it was.
Yeah, because
so it actually,
the empathy enhanced their relationship.
Exactly.
Is this connected? This is my question, Grace, and it's off what we discussed earlier. But is this also kind of an extension of mindfulness? Because you have to put yourself really in the moment, and be a very part of what's happening right now, and pay attention to what's happening right now.
Yes. I think that's a very good observation. I don't know that I would have come up with that because that's not how I approach it. But I think you're absolutely right. And I think because it does require, when we're focused on what we want, that is not in the moment. That's a future. That's being focused on the future.
Right.
And to stay present with what is yes, very, very good observation.
Thank you. What additional tools then are available now that we've talked about how important it is? What are some of the additional tools that you've been utilizing or referring your clients to use that might be helpful in getting where we need to get?
Sure. I mentioned Chris Voss, and he talks about three things that he talks about more than three things, but there are three things that I think I hope we have time to go through. One is what he calls labeling, and we actually talked about that a little bit earlier when I was talking about going out and observing people and then having a conversation with them to confirm or validate what you, or correct so that you can then get better at it, what you've observed. And in a conflict or in an intense conversation, let's just leave it at that. It can be conflict, it can be negotiation, it can be whatever. To label what you think someone might be feeling or might be experiencing, or even what you think they might want, but always to do it from the perspective of, I'm taking a guess here, I could be wrong, but I think this might be what you're feeling in this moment. And that is a way of getting to that feeling felt experience. So labeling is one. Mirroring, what he calls mirroring, and there's some other terms for it, but basically what it is reflecting back the same last two or three words that the other person says. Many coaches are taught to say more about that, but this is actually a better way of getting somebody to expand on what they are thinking or feeling. And the fun thing about it is that even when somebody knows and uses the tool themselves, you can use it on them and they won't even notice that it's happening. So, you can say, I don't know, it's really windy here right now. And then I would say, really windy right now? And then the other person might say, yeah, I'm watching the branches and a branch just fell on the roof and the leaves are going everywhere. Leaves are going everywhere. And it feels really, really obvious when you're doing it, but when you try it, it's amazing that people don't pick up on it.
And
they will just keep expanding on what they're saying.
Right. They just keep following along. And because you're repeating those words as a semi-question, which is only inferred in your voice, not in what you say, it invites them to continue to discuss. I love that. I think that's a great tool. It
is so much fun to just play with. I mean, because Voss actually has I think it was on his blog actually, where he made the comment that one of his students was using it on him, and until somebody else in the room started cracking up laughing, he didn't even realize it was being used on him.
Amazing.
So it's very effective. And then the third is asking questions that require a no answer. And this is really interesting because most traditional negotiation and sales tactics will tell you to get the other person to say yes and to agree with you because it puts them in this, I'm agreeing with you frame of mind. But Voss points out that this is actually not a real agreement, and that's why so many in sales environments, so many deals will go south. Whoops, we are out of time again for this segment.
Well, we have to say no for the moment, but we'll come back. And you are listening to WSRadio.com, the world leader in Internet talk. And this is Nina Woodard, your host.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Securing Our eCity Foundation is a nonprofit organization focused on cybersecurity awareness and education. Formed in 2011, their mission is to enable every San Diegan to live, work, and play safely in the cyber world. For more information, visit securingourecity.org or call 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org, 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org.
Too much to do? Not enough time to get it done? Call on the experts at Another 8 Hours for your business support needs. By partnering with Another 8 Hours, we allow you to focus on the more important matters, like being in front of your clients, doing what you do best, rather than being stuck at a desk poring over paperwork, rummaging through emails, returning phone calls, and struggling to get everything done by yourself. Meanwhile, your family and social life are going down the drain. Go to another8hours.com or call 8 more hours. That's 866-734-6877.
Welcome back to the HR Insights Hour presented by the Society for Human Resource Management, San Diego.
And this is Nina Woodard, your host, and my guest today is Grace Jetson. And Grace and I have been having a very interesting conversation around empathy. And the title of our show today is Empathy Now More Than Ever, and why empathy is the key to transforming conflict, healing relationships, improving teamwork, and resolving tough negotiations. So, Grace, thank you so much for bringing this very meaningful topic at a very meaningful time with the holidays coming. I'm sure there are lots of families that might be able to use this to make the holiday events go even more smoothly than normal.
Oh, yeah.
So as we closed the last session, we were talking about Mr. Voss's 3 tools or 3 ways of helping to be able to capture and utilize empathy effectively. And did you get a chance to finish the last one completely, or is there more to that?
The last one, really, yeah, I'll briefly wrap it up. It has to do with inviting the no question, because having someone say no actually gives them a feeling of power. However, you can turn this sort of thing to your advantage, and one of the examples is, let's say your boss wants you to work overtime over the weekend, and you already have commitments, and there are many ways of saying no to that. But what you can do is say, is it unreasonable of me to want to honor my promise that I made for meeting somebody this weekend? Honor the previous commitment I've made. Now, that invites a no answer. But we don't typically think of asking a question, is it unreasonable of me to want to be an honorable person and honor my word? Is it out of line for me to, whatever? So one of the things that is really cool to do with this is if you have been waiting for somebody to get back to you on a project or on plans, send them an email. They don't get back, they don't answer emails, they don't answer texts or phone calls or whatever. Drop them a note that says, have you given up on doing this? And they may have, but at least you'll know, because they'll get back to you. Because so often people just sort of go off the radar when they're not, when they don't want to say no. But if you give them the opportunity to say either no or yes, or else to say, oh, you know what, we really still want to do this, we just haven't had the time to whatever. But you're much more likely to get an answer to a question that invites that no than you are if you keep saying, well, when should we get started? Or, whatever variation on pushing for the yes might be.
Those are 3 tools that almost sound counterintuitive, and yet, as you've explained them, and as Chris obviously explains them, they sound very, very practical and to the point that we're trying to accomplish. As you've defined it, it sounds like the first step in this process of developing empathy is really understanding what empathy is, and especially the terminology, tactical empathy. So it's really about a depth of understanding then, is that right?
Yeah, it's about understanding that empathy is a tool that you can use, and then allowing yourself to take that moment of mindfulness, as you so accurately put it, to put yourself in the other person's position and observe them and imagine from what you know about them and what you're observing what their experience might be in that moment. Understand the why behind what they're doing and saying.
In our last few minutes here, it might be helpful too to recap the difference that we talked about earlier between sympathy, compassion, and empathy.
Sure. compassion arises out of empathy and sympathy. It is, the caring move that, we might do when we feel compassion for somebody. We might, bring them chicken soup or write them a card or whatever it might be. Sympathy is feeling sorry for someone's experience, feeling sorry for them that they have lost a loved one, feeling sorry for them that they got fired from a job, feeling sorry for them that, they're having a difficult time in whatever way it is. Empathy is about taking that step back and really understanding what the person might be feeling and experiencing. And it could be joy. It could be happiness. It could be, any number of things. It doesn't have to be, frustration or anger or whatever. It could be a lot of positive things as well. But when you think you have an awareness of what the other person might be feeling, then you have information that you can use. And this is the really biggest difference between empathy and sympathy, or empathy and compassion. You have crucial information that you can use to help start to create change in the relationship, positive forward change in the relationship.
So let's recap also, because you've shared some really handy tools and important thoughts about how to develop empathy. So let's recap, even for if you're one of the 20% that's naturally empathetic, what are some of the ways that you can really leverage or develop your empathy and make it an even more meaningful skill for you?
I think the most important thing that we can do is recognize that people feel the way they feel for a reason, and that they then act because of those feelings, which are also often or are created by beliefs that they have. We may not agree with them, but if we can get down into that why they feel and act the way they do, we have a much better chance of understanding them and opening up the doors and windows to having better conversations that actually create positive change. One of the ways that I talked about to start to develop that was by, as you put it, you were ready to go out tonight and start looking at everybody on the streets. Is
People
to really
watch.
Look at people. People watching. It's a great thing, and it's not just for saying, oh, wow, look at that weird one. But what is that person that strikes you as being weird? What is their experience? What are they feeling? Why are they that way? What might be their experience in this moment? And then, if it's a safe situation, because you don't want to do this with a total stranger or with somebody that you are in conflict with, to say, hey, I'm doing this thing where I'm checking out what I think people might be feeling. Can you validate or correct what I think, again, conditional language, I think you might be experiencing in this moment or feeling in this moment? And it really does need to be done gently and delicately, because we don't ever want to tell somebody, well, I think you're really pissed off right now, or I think you're afraid, because those are vulnerable and touchy places to go into if it's not a safe situation.
Right. It also, for me, is begging the question, what signals am I sending about how I'm experiencing this moment? So it's also leading me to think about, so oftentimes I find myself sitting in an airport someplace waiting for the next flight or whatever's going to happen next. And if I think about, okay, what does it look like I'm doing right now? And what messages am I telling people around me about, my thought process? That could give some helpful insight, too, just about the way we're sitting or the things we're thinking about, what other people might be experiencing as well, based on our own understanding of ourselves in the moment.
Sure. Yeah. Because, there's a wonderful quote that I use often, which is that defense is the first act of war. So if we go into a situation in a defensive posture, we are setting ourselves up to get defensiveness and potentially even aggression or pushback in return. But if we can trust ourselves to honor what we want and at the same time open ourselves to what they might want,
we can actually come to some level of empathy. Grace, thank you so much for your time today. You're listening to WSRadio.com, the world leader in Internet talk, and this is Nina Woodard, your host.
Join culinary masters and legendary winemakers for one of the largest Epicurean celebrations, the 14th Annual San Diego Bay Wine and Food Festival. From November 12th through the 19th, this week-long extravaganza features celebrity and local chefs, 200 amazing wineries, 70 of San Diego's best restaurants, and it's a week of citywide events. Go to VinVillage.com to save big on select tickets. For event and hotel packages, visit SanDiegoWineClassic.com. That's SanDiegoWineClassic.com.
A podcast or radio show on WS Radio is a great way to create content marketing. Turn prospects into customers into raving fans. Contact Wade at WSRadio.com or call 866-WS-RADIO. Education, industry experts, back to the basics. Is your company using the Internet of Things to its fullest potential? Enlist the Peggy Smedley Institute and its team of experts to create a customized plan for how to apply the IoT to your specific needs. Learn everything you need to know to achieve tangible business outcomes in today's digital economy. Contact us at 630-933-0844. That's 630-933-0844 or visit learnitit.com.
I have some good news for a change. With the stressful times upon us, having a regular glass of wine has proved in many studies to reduce stress. Want some more stress-relieving tips? VinVillage.com is an exciting new social organization connecting wine lovers around the country with an exclusive local and online wine lifestyle experience. Vin Village members can meet others online and in person, attend wine dinners and tastings, participate in forums, blogs, and wikis, purchase limited and exclusive wines, even create your own wine. You heard me. Create your own wine. And best yet, membership is free. So reduce some of the stress and have some fun. Join now and connect with thousands of other like-minded wine lovers. To learn more, go to vinvillage.com. That's www.vinvillage.com. Vin Village is where wine lovers connect.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, vinvillage.com, where wine lovers connect. Be sure to tune in weekly to Vin Village Radio for exclusive, in-depth interviews with the who's who in wine and food.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com, on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.